I think, again, just listening to the audience just now and how people were saying, well, it's the truth and why won't you show it? What I find interesting is there was a scene in this movie where the guys, the white guys were praying at this point. And we talk about wanting to see truth and how, why wouldn't you show the girl getting raped and all of these, we have emotional reactions to all of these things. But I think certain levels of truth make too many of us uncomfortable in masses, which again makes it unproductive on a capitalist situation. So when you take it to the next level, my question was, why are we uncomfortable when you break it to the next level and say, let's start from the higher as opposed to the lower? What about the God concept? The fact that nobody talked about what these guys' religion was, what their culture was, yet still, when you bring up Christianity versus Islam versus Judaism, everybody gets quiet. But that's also another level of truth that needs to be confronted. Because we've been socialized a certain way from our God concept all the way down, from the viewing of Christ as white by the people that have actually killed us and enslaved us, and everything we learned from our religious background, because we're not that investigated, we're not that thorough, we don't cross-reference any of our religious doctrine with anybody else's doctrine, and we don't cross-reference it with anything historical. Yet still we have emotional attachments to it, and we don't have real conversations about it. So when you say, why would you show somebody 8-year-old getting raped, it's almost like, how are you going to even go there? You can't even deal with the spiritual concept, which is an intangible thing.
Excellent. And I also thought the depiction of Africans and their contribution into the slave system was excellent. And my question is that you stated that the Africans and their contribution to the slave system shouldn't have been in the film, but I personally believe that capturing slaves was very seldomly done. It was mostly the selling of slaves from Africans to the whites for liquor, beads, and guns. Like, we were traded for gunpowder. That was done to us. So I believe that it showed the truth. It basically showed the truth that a lot of us don't know and think it's, oh, all the white people. It wasn't, because without the Africans, we wouldn't be here.
Well, I'd like to respond to that. As a criminal defense lawyer, I represent a lot of young drug dealers. But those young drug dealers from North Philly have no impact whatsoever on the drug trade in America. So to equate the Africans who were involved in the slave trade is to equate my Raymond Rosen Project drug dealing client with Oliver North. It's a completely different thing. The other thing I want to explain is that Africans didn't capture Africans and take them to Europe. The Europeans came to Africa. It's a matter of looking at the cause and the symptom, the cause and the effect. What was the cause of slavery? It was the devils coming to Africa doing what they did. The other thing folks don't realize is that the same Congolese king who was involved, Agacha, who was involved in the slave trade, was himself enslaved. And those Africans who decided to rebel against the slave trade, they were enslaved. So Africans would have been enslaved by Europeans despite what Africans did. The fact that you focus on some minor player in the slave trade is to do disservice to what the Europeans did. I'm not going to let them off the hook by saying that blacks were involved in the slave trade. That's utter nonsense. Ask yourself, would there have been African slavery by Europeans without African complicity? The answer is absolutely yes. The Europeans would have done what they did despite what took place. If those Europeans had not come there to do it, we wouldn't have had slavery. Simple as that. And one final point I want to make, which is critical. Even to the extent that these African kings were involved in the slave trade, it wasn't the slave trade as they knew it. They didn't know that you lost your language, your culture, your religion, your humanity. They thought it was the same thing that happened anytime you have a prisoner of war. So the fact that we even discussing this, I appreciate that, but also I'm bothered by it because we're getting sidetracked. We're getting our eye off the ball. The ball is the devil who started slavery and must pay for it by blood or money.
Listen, we're running quickly out of time. We're running out of time. Let me ask you to limit your questions and your comments, and as the panelists to limit theirs as well. Our gentleman is going to ask his, and then we're going to go to our elder so that he can speak for us.
My name is Michael Chair. I'm a graduate of Temple University. This is Fox School, Business School. And my question is, we're all seeing the news, the print, and the question is, the acts committed in this film was cowardly by white folks. And now, how can we, as black people, avoid being cowardly?
He said the acts were cowardly. How can we now avoid being cowardly?
No. What we're supposed to do.
So he's saying that should it be an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth situation?
No.
By some religious doctrine.
No, what we're supposed to do, it's like we're spending so much time talking about what happened back then, and it's important to have an understanding about that. But what, like I asked before, what are each and every one of you doing on a daily basis to stand up for your rights? You know, how do you stand for your own integrity and your principles? How are you planning for your own future? We can all sit and complain, but I want to know who's actually doing something about it.
And we have to understand it's a multi-layered situation. Again, we have to be comfortable with being able to agree to disagree. Because if what I love about what we're doing is, again, you see the vast differences of opinions. We have to be able to start communicating. That's the very first place. Without the communication, we're not going to get anywhere. So at the end of the day, we have to be able to open up the floor to the most uncomfortable. Somebody does want to see the 8-year-old getting raped. I personally don't want to, but that's my emotional choice. But I respect your choice if you think that that's necessary to convey something that happened. But again, history is documented according to he who has the power to define. And at the end of the day, if he shoots the 8-year-old getting raped and the powers that be don't want it in the film, it's not in the film, period. So you also have to understand the dynamics of where we are. We are in America. We, until recently, if not ever, are still considered 3/5 of a man. We got to start going into how we're actually viewed. We don't really count until we matter economically. And then even in that situation, we're still small potatoes because the economic structure isn't designed to be overthrown. So we have to understand the nature of what the battle is going to be. Then we have to understand, again, everybody isn't a leader. Everybody isn't necessarily a follower. Somebody's a mathematician. Somebody's a philosopher. Somebody's a scientist. We need to pool the resources and understand the multi-layered problem and get together on a communication level first.
It's the Wild Wild West. Please direct your attention this way. Our elder wants to speak, 81 years of age. And I think all of us ought to, in fact, listen. 84 years of age. He said, I'll wrap him on his 3 years. 84 years of age, and I think that this is a good central point moment for all of us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I enjoyed the picture, but it wasn't graphic enough for me.
That's right.
I thought there would be more scenery of the slaves and what was being done to them. I just heard just a few scenes, and it was mostly talking, which was good. And I feel that many of us, when we talk about our situation, we have a tendency to soft pedal it and not and sugarcoat it and don't tell the whole story as it is. And I feel we should do that. Indeed, the time has come for us to tell it the way it is. Don't worry about offending a white man. Don't worry about it. Tell the truth. You talk about if somebody make a film showing that 8-year-old girl being raped, that's a lot but they would be lynched. Listen, what about some time ago, a girl, I think she was 11 years old. She was raped in the bedroom statement. And a Negro judge, who I detest, they call him the Honorable Judge Reynolds, but to me, he is the dishonorable Judge Reynolds. He held that kid, those boys with kid gloves. He didn't do nothing to them.
That's right.
And when the Negroes talk about it on the radio and so forth, they soft pedal it. They don't talk the way it is. These people, you talk about slavery,
That's right.
but slavery is still going on. You're still pulling out a good strategy being committed to now. Look what they did to a man down in Texas, I think it was. Drug him behind a truck until his head came off. It is time for us to stop soft pedaling the thing and sugarcoat it and tell us the way it is. Yes, we should make films and show what has been done to us. Show what God's been raped.
Let's give a big hand for our elder. You are a voice of wisdom and reason. Come on, we can do better than that, please.
I'm doing pretty good, man. I've been trying to get with Motive for the last year, man.
Last year?
For the last year. About, trying to do some advertising in the publication.
Oh, we ain't got no money.
It's not bad. I got $75, man, for a business card.
money.
Come on, man. Come on, Amir.
Keyword is internship.
Come on, Amir.
Oh, it's no joke.
For promotions?
Seriously?
I see promotions in other magazines, though. I see Jag stuff in other publications.
Oh, that's MCA. Not.
But doesn't it have to go through, like,
Oh, stop playing. Hell no.
They don't have no say-so in terms of who they...
Jazzy's record sold with like 2,000.
What about
Ice record sold 1,000. You know what I mean?
They
Like,
promote it, though.
yeah. Oh, that's any advertisement you see of our so-called artists. Oh, that shit is straight up. That's MCA doing that.
All of it?
Yeah. This is what they say.
624-2008.
Thank you. Because I'm a fax number. Oh.